What was that?
Flame.
Well, I wasn't paper, so go again. It's not fair.
Let's go.
This is the third time we filmed this, and I've won every time, even though she cheats. Welcome to Books We've Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole, and this is episode 17 of Books We Never Read. We're covering chapters 11 through the end of West With Giraffes by Lynda Rutledge. Before we dive in, please make sure this is the video you really want to be watching, because we talk about everything as if you've already read up to this point, so spoilers abound. We've read lots of other books in our little book club so far, so check out the playlisted videos so that you can see if there's something else there that you'd like to read.
Mm-hmm. And this is the last section of this particular book, and so our next book is Anansi Boys. The syllabus is out also today, so please make sure you check that out and join us for that one, because we are starting to read it right now. Right now.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Let's dive right in.
Okay. Wow. This was an especially hard ending of a book. I haven't felt this way about a book that we've read since Three Body Problem.
I didn't even cry in Three Body Problem, but I was crying starting at chapter 12, just all the way to the end, basically. We
were eating lunch while she was listening to the audiobook. I'm sitting there eating my food, and every once in a while she'd just go, oh. Oh.
I just stopped eating because I was going to, choke on my food because I was just, holding back the tears in my throat, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but this was so emotionally powerful in a way. It definitely more emotionally powerful than the end of the last book of Three Body Problem, for sure. But I haven't had this kind of, connection with a book since then. So.
And that's interesting, because I think you were saying before, I don't remember if it was on the show or if you had just said this to me, but when you're reading a book, you don't get caught up in the emotions that the characters get caught up in. But how could you not by the end of this?
Right.
I mean, as soon as Woody started realizing, oh, this is the last time that she'll be sitting with the giraffes with me, or this, as soon as he started realizing. Yeah.
It was here that I've talked about that before, and it's something about the way this book is written that really makes you connect. It's not the story so much as it is the way it is written, and I don't know why. But I feel like that also really comes to a head right there at the end when he is addressing who his story is really to, and he keeps saying it is for you, it is for you, it is for you, and you until it's really clear who that you is, it feels like it's you, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really nice
interesting
piece, so.
Yeah. Little Augie Ann.
Yeah, we thought last week was difficult because there was really almost traumatic parts, the giraffe in the field and trying to escape the circus people and all that.
Hat.
And even though the trauma for the giraffes was probably more intense last week, for the trauma for the people was all it was this week, all of it, and it was really powerful. It really was. What do you want to talk about first? What was...
Yeah.
I mean, where do you even start?
So, each of them are trying to control their fate in some way or another. And I thought it was interesting just how fate has its own plans, if you want to personify it. The giraffes had escaped the hurricane, but were launched right back into a flash flood, which... in this region is real scary, real powerful, real fast, and gone. Augusta Red, she was trying to be the modern woman, and she ended up just going back home empty-handed, and Woody ended up right back in the panhandle of Texas.
Yeah, I feel like in this part of the book, everybody loses.
Yeah.
But really everybody wins, it's more complicated than that. You're right. Augusta does not make it to the end. Woody doesn't really make it to the end. Neither of our main characters really do. But it's this idea of journey before destination, right? they are different people for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
for it.
because of this.
Yeah.
Because of this experience. We finally saw what happened at Woody's home when he was forced to go back there. And he even told the old man, I don't have the guts for this. And I was really invested in Woody's struggle, having to go back home. When I was younger, I felt like, I would know that I'm an adult and that I'm grown and I'm independent when I'm able to like leave home and be in the big city and be independent and stay on my own. And that I felt like and I don't feel that way anymore, of course, but I felt like this feeling of fear, that I was just like, I can't go back home. I can't go back to where I'm from. I can't go back to, the small town. And that's how all, I think, kids feel. It's part of growing up is, gaining that independence. But for Woody, he had real ghosts where he came from real buried parents. And so I was just really invested in that with him through that part of the story. And that moment when he stands up to his dad, he's finally had enough. The rain's not coming, and I'm not going to die here.
Right.
And then that leads to...
Yeah, his father's suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. I that's interesting because I don't think I felt that way as a child. Like, just jumping back to your point, like, I always knew I could do it. Yeah. But, like, very young, I started, like, doing, like, wilderness backpacking, and I hiked a lot of the Appalachian Trail, like, before I was, like, 16 or something. And so... I always just knew, like, no matter what, I'm gonna make it. And so that's interesting because I guess I don't have quite that connection with Woody. Like, I just figured it would all work out because it always had. And maybe I had more help than I thought. But talking about the flood and about finding out, like, the truth or whatever, it's such a jarring moment when they find the bones of his father. And then the flood happens, and you're like, but what about this, right? And then maybe...
And those are the bones of the horse, right?
I thought they were the bones of his father.
I think they were the...
And, whoever's bones. It wasn't quite clear to me, because he asks, are these a human's bones?
But then he tells the story, and he buried that horse.
But he buried his dad, too.
So that the coyotes couldn't get it.
I feel like you could tell a horse, because there's
Bigger.
Horse parts, right? Like, I don't know. Regardless of who it is, right? And so I started thinking, well, maybe the old man...
He dragged his dad down to be buried next to his mom.
Maybe so. Kind of really remember.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Sorry. Point of information.
I think that... I was hoping that, like, the old man would forget about that, because I think I would forget if something, like, traumatic like this flash flood happened. I would forget about, like, what had happened.
To come back to the conversation. Yeah.
But one of the most interesting things is the description of how, like, it's not raining. Mm-hmm. It's a blue sky, flash flood. And that scares me to death. Mm-hmm. Like, that is so weird and unnatural, and I don't like it.
But growing up near rivers like we do, or we have, that's
but, like,
a
lot
thing.
of times it was also raining. Like, I can't think of any time where, like, I've had a flood and it wasn't that. But,
well, so, being next to the Red River that goes up, so far north, anytime there was lots of rains up north, the river here overflows. Yeah. Even if it's not raining here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, and I grew up by, like, rivers and coulees and stuff all the time, but, like, I just think of it with rain, right? And I don't like water in that way. I don't like water not being where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, scary.
But, so he has, all that being said, trying to get around to this point of saying that he has this, like, flood of emotions following his house, like coming home, and then there was, like, a literal flood.
Literal flood,
right?
yeah.
That's all.
And, there's the symbolism of floods as being, like, cleansing and the baptism and the ark flood and, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, like, in a weird way, so we get a lot of talk, especially once it gets to California. This is, like, only, like, 2 or 3 days later, when they finally make it, about the man that Woody used to be, right? The boy he was, and how he's a man now. And I guess I see the flood as sort of washing away the old Woody, right? Yeah. Like, it is gone. Like, it is gone. The farm, the crosses, the graves, all everything. It's all gone, and he can be somebody different.
He can be his own person.
Yeah.
Kind of very much. Well, the flood also washed away Augusta Red, like who she was, and now she's part of their
That's true.
Their little clique and forgiven of her annoyances and stuff.
And I think all all stories have a coming home moment, right? And his coming home moment is also his like becoming moment, right? Like they're both tied in here together. So I think it's really, and it was a very powerful scene for a lot of reasons that like aren't really discussed.
Yeah. It's still very much part of like the American dream, and whatever that means.
Yeah.
They were all chasing their version of it.
Yeah. Well, and Augusta loses her camera, right?
Man,
in that
just lost.
Saves the giraffes, right?
Yeah.
Loses her camera, and I mean, and that's the end of the journey for her. You know, like when she doesn't have that, you know, her purpose there is gone. So.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That part of it. Just time to go home. And sometimes that's how it ends up, you know? Like, sometimes you just go home empty-handed.
Yep.
And that's the end of it.
I mean, can we talk about the moment with his father, right? I mean, like, because I mean, that was hard and powerful, and like his dad just had lost it, you know. I don't think his dad really thought that they were killing the horse and that's what they were going to get them through. I think his dad had given up and was killing like the last thing they had, you know. Like I think, you know, what he says that we were going to eat this and do all that, and like I think it was like it was a last meal, right? Like that's what it was in his father's mind. I don't think his dad thought they were going to make it out.
Interesting.
I think he meant to die. Like it was
ending.
It was time, yeah. And so I think, you know, be it today or tomorrow or whatever, like this was coming, you know.
Poor Woody.
Yeah.
That's just, he just had such a hard childhood. It's terrible. Yeah, there was just so much, and I'm trying to like process. It also, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. I usually finish reading the day before, and I have like a night to sleep on it and like really think about it. But it's also fresh, and I'm still like sad about the ending.
Yeah. Well, let's move through it like chronologically, right? Because so they go home to the farm, they get back on the road, they run into Coot.
That was so crazy.
Like we've talked about this last week or the week before about like how crazy would it be that somebody would try to steal a giraffe when like the circus people didn't have a giraffe last week and now they have one.
This guy.
So some random dude is just like, Coot, leave it here with my raccoon and rattlesnake and nobody will know. That is so crazy. And that scene dragged on. And I was just like, this has got to end.
But it escalated so quickly.
Right.
It was like, oh, hang on 1 second. And then he came out with a gun.
Yeah. But he was another like crazy person, right? Like he was another person who didn't have he didn't have anything, you know. I like to think he's still in that bear cage.
Do you think he was dead?
No. Not really. But I agree with old man. Like anybody who treats animals like that, I'm not here for it. Like he killed that raccoon for no reason.
Just yeah, I had blocked all that out.
I'm just not really that concerned about what happens to you now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that scene, it doesn't really. What that scene did was really tied the three of them together.
Yeah.
Right? Because they. After Augusta saves them, they think she's gone, right? Like, and then there's and she goes to say goodbye to the giraffes, and then it was her assistance that really, even though there was like some bungling going on,
right?
It's what got them out of there.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, and I ended up really liking her character.
Oh, for sure.
By the end of it.
Yeah. Well, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
So. Oh well, I think that's an important part. I like that. The love that she and Woody had never went anywhere. It's beautiful and tragic. It's like it's a Romeo Juliet kind of thing, right? I mean, it just is. And so, and they didn't die, but they died to each other, right? Like they might as well.
Their stories ended for each other. Yeah. Her husband, once Woody had served his time in the military and then went back to find her. His quote that she always asked too much, You know, and she had big wishes. You know, she wanted to wear her pants and learn how to drive and see the giraffes and go to Africa. And man, she had big dreams. And like, it just makes me so sad for her.
Yeah.
She was a sad character by the end of it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I it's so unlikely that a situation like this would have a happy ending, right?
Yeah.
Like if she was just like, I'm gonna leave him and live with you in California, I'd be like, get out of here.
I know, it couldn't have ended that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it was an important step. Now, after this event at Coot's, and they're driving to California, this is the part where the old man starts talking and just like won't stop.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Right. And it's all lies.
Yeah.
you find out like 2 chapters later that like none of that was real.
Yeah.
And I think that's really funny. And I think what he was doing, like he wasn't just lying to them for no reason. He was trying to keep their minds off of this is the end, you know. He was distracting them from that fact. Yeah. And it was an act of kindness.
Yeah. And I love learning that he just told lots of stories about him. Yeah. Riley told lots of stories about Woody at the zoo, waiting on Woody to come back. He was a legend, and he was treated as such when he got there.
Well, and so like I didn't find the scenes where like when we drop Augusta off at the train station, I don't find that to be that tragic, right? Like Woody is losing the girl he loves. Yeah. But his real love is like the giraffes, and that's what he wants to do. Yeah. And so he's still like he's lost something, but he hasn't lost his purpose yet, right? And when they get to California, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna hop on this train. See you later."
Why?
Well, because like he like achieved his goal, and he thought he was gonna go do something and come back, right? Like, and then he goes away for 7 years to World War II.
Yeah. On such small things, entire lives turn. Yeah. That was the line as he like took the motorcycle and then immediately got caught. Yeah.
Well, and like I think about like, well, what is, you know, here's the next day, and Riley's like, well, that guy never came back, and like I know that he would, and then he doesn't come back, and he doesn't come back, and you don't know if he's alive or dead. Yeah. Augusta doesn't know if he's alive. Nobody knows. Yeah. You know? There's no evidence that he ever tried to write Riley, even though he probably could have very easily. You know, he's just gone, and what a strange unfinished business. Yeah, for you to be like in a crater in France somewhere, journey. Right? Yeah, thinking I'm burying this body or whatever, but I wonder how my giraffes are doing. I never said goodbye. He never got to say goodbye. Yeah. For 7 years. It's just so weird, right?
So that was another thing that I thought of too. You know, most novels of this time period, the stories are coming from war. Like, it made me think of the things they carried and you know, the 10 million other war novels that are out there. Yeah. Because that's where most of our big stories come from, or through, you know, those huge world events like that. Mm-hmm. But no, this is just, he did have all that. He didn't tell us a single story from all that, except for, you know, half a story of him becoming the cleanup crew. Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of funny that, you know, that was kind of one of the things we talked about at the beginning of this book, and then it came around full circle. You know, you don't know as you're living your life what parts the stories are. You're just living your life and making your decisions. Mm-hmm. But towards the end, he said, in a long life, there's a singular moment when you know you've made more memories than any new ones you'll ever make. And that's when you know which are the stories to tell. Mm. So, I mean, he went through the whole war and we didn't get a single story out of that. Right. We got this story.
Right. Well, I don't know why, but it made me think of, and I wish I had done my homework before we got on here. There's a story in the Bible about this guy who falls in love with this girl. And so his dad says, you're going to work for me for 7 years. And then his dad makes him marry the wrong one. Oh. And then it might be Isaac. It's one of those guys, right? Like one of the early like Jewish patriarchs. And anyway, so then he works again for 7 more years so that he can marry the right sister. Mm. And that's the story. And that's what I guess it's probably because of the number 7, right? But so like he made a choice about a woman, right? Like, and he chose like the wrong one. Like he chose to go after Red, the one that was unattainable, the one that he was never going to have. And because he chose that one, he had to go and work for 7 years to be able to get the thing he really loved, which was these giraffes.
The giraffes, yeah.
And I'm sure there's like no real correlation
No,
there, but that's what it made me think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good comparison.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. I love that he did marry 3 women, all redheads. Yeah. That made me laugh.
It's a thing. Yeah. And we talked earlier, like, they paid him back pay, which I thought was awesome. Everybody knew who he was, and he was like a little mini hero at this zoo. And that Riley had left him all the wooden nickels. To get him in to go see the giraffes and everything. And I don't know how long giraffes live, but like those giraffes lived a long time.
Yeah.
Because they were like still alive when he couldn't get out there to see them, basically.
Through those 7 years.
No.
Is that what you're
No, as he aged. Like, they say he couldn't make it out to the zoo, even though his mind was willing, his body was not able.
Oh, I thought they had died before that.
They might have, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Regardless, he got to have a good long while with those giraffes.
Yeah, they didn't live that whole time.
Okay.
He did see them pass. But he, in that process, like living his life, going to the zoo and all that stuff, I liked the quote that he learned the secret to a good life, and it was reveling in their company like the old man did, seeing the world through their serene sky-high eyes like Red did, and sensing creation through 2 towering creatures of God's pure Eden like Big Papa did.
Yeah.
So, and I think that that's so true about like nature and animals, and like that's why we get so much like rejuvenation from being outside,
right.
And spending time in nature. It's just part of us, and we connect with it so quickly.
I thought about the God's pure Eden part several times, and
it came up so much.
Well, there's the part where they're driving through like the Arizona desert or whatever, and they say, at this time, if you blew out a tire or ran out of gas or whatever, like there were a million ways for you to die because there's nothing out here.
Nothing there.
And so arguably that should be one of the most dangerous. And he says that, right? Yeah. We should have been like really thinking about this, but after everything we've been through, it was peaceful.
Yeah.
And so the most peaceful place they ever went was like this weird like land of death.
Yeah.
But there were no people. And so it was the good part of the journey. Yeah. And that kind of, a lot of times the worst thing we have is ourselves, and that there's this peace and safety and this solitude in this particular case compared to being around all these other people that are an issue. And like if there was anywhere that was an Eden at all in this story, it wasn't even really California. Yeah. It like might have been that desert.
Yeah. So. It was that one easy patch of their drive where nothing bad happened. Yeah. Oh. Yep. That was really good. Like, that was so good.
What did you think of finding out that Augusta Jr. is the one who was the one getting the book? Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty perfect, you know? And it sucks that she's 89 before she learns how awesome her mom was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, she was really old.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. He says it's weird because it's your mom's story. It's not my story, so I'm going to tell it to you.
And it's greedy not to tell it.
Yeah. I don't know that I really agree with that, but it's a nice sentiment.
Yeah.
Because he can't tell her mother's story. He can only tell his story. So he gives the best approximation, and I'm glad that the people tried to find her, and they did find her.
Yeah.
Like, that's neat. One time when I was a kid, I used to collect coins, and I got a $1 bill from like a Southeast Asian country. I don't remember which one. Maybe like an island, maybe Philippines. I have no idea. And on that $1 bill, or whatever currency they had, somebody had typed in a typewriter like a note to their family. And I might be getting this wrong, but I think we found the family, and they said it's cool, you can have it. I'd have to ask my dad more about that, but but there was like a similar thing. I probably still have that.
How on earth would you find that family?
I don't remember, but like, I feel like we tried.
Yeah,
I could be getting that whole story wrong.
I feel like your dad would try to find the family. Like that would be a project.
I feel like there was an address or something. I don't know.
Oh,
it doesn't matter.
Goodness.
But But yeah, so like a similar kind of thing
Yeah.
has happened.
It's a message in a bottle.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But all things told, I mean, this is the single most tragic book we've read yet. And we read a book where the universe ended.
Yeah. But I mean, this book really gave me a feeling of catharsis that, like, I have not had from a book in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are, you know, like, I do get emotional when I read books because, like, it's happening in my head. So, like, I experience whatever's happening in the book. But this one really had me ugly crying, and even just talking about it now, like, it just still has my emotions kind of right on edge. Because it was just so, I don't know, it was just so great. Like, doing the thing for the giraffes, going through all this stuff.
Yeah. I guess I like it so much because it wasn't a happy ending. And when I get happy endings, I'm not saying you can't learn anything from a happy ending, but like you don't, when things go well for you, you don't need a whole lot to like process that and get through it or whatever. But like, it's, like Harry Potter is for you, right? Like there's so much hardship in Harry Potter and there's so much loss that it has literally helped you to think about how these characters have gone through things when you go through things.
Yeah.
Or like last week I think it was last week or some other week when you said, the world's not divided into good people and Death Eaters or whatever, right? Like these things from this story.
Yeah.
And happy stories don't necessarily teach you those things.
Right.
There has to be these tragedies because tragedies are the place where we need that strength. And so I like tragic heroes.
Yeah.
In a weird, we I think made a few jokes about "O Brother Where Art Thou" in a week or two ago, and I definitely get, if not "O Brother Where Art Thou" vibes, I really get some Odyssey vibes from this. For sure. So
yeah,
it's interesting.
Water trauma.
Fair.
That's Odyssey and "Oh Brother Where Art Thou," you know.
Yeah. I hate water.
You don't hate water.
I don't hate water. I hate water where it's not supposed to be.
It is an uncontrollable force that we always try to control.
I hate leaks.
It is to our detriment, for sure, that we think we can control it. Yeah.
Well, and that's, I think that's what's really cool about water is it's like it's this natural force that we cannot tame in a lot of ways.
We cannot.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it was the whole pushing point of this book. The whole thing happened because weather and water, and we just can't. We can't become the master of that.
Right. Yeah.
I loved all the description of the giraffes, like their hummings and their snuggles, the way they curl their necks on their butts and all that.
That's really interesting. Going back to the weather thing, and no, it's fine. I'm just thinking now, like when we talk about emotions, we have to describe them in physical ways, and so we talk about storms, and we talk about weathering things, and we talk about a flood of emotions, right? Like we aren't capable of thinking about things in a non-physical way because there's no other way, right? And so we have to use these analogies, and the analogies in this book are exactly the words that we use to describe these things that are going on in our head as best we can, So, interesting.
Yep. That's all my bits and pieces.
There's so much that we should be talking about, right? I feel like, but even then, there wasn't all that much that happened. There's 3 incidences.
Right, yeah.
And they're all so powerful that I feel like I should be talking about something, but that's it, right?
Yeah. Is there anything that that you'd be willing to trek across the country through mountains and floods and?
Yeah. And it wouldn't take a whole lot, honestly. Not today, no.
Yeah.
This is actually really interesting. There are countries in the world where you cannot drive across the country and expect to not be just highway robbed.
Yeah.
But America is one of them. Yeah. And you might get held up. That might happen, but you're not going to get highway robbery. But you did at this time, right? That still happened. There was bandits. There aren't bandits in America. You've got thieves and you've got carjackers, but you don't have bandits.
Yeah.
There are bandits here, which is crazy. I mean that wouldn't bother me. Whatever, that's fine. And especially if I had nothing, doesn't hurt anything, I guess.
I feel like though this period of time definitely has a feeling or sentiment or like people carried feelings that like we don't really carry anymore. I feel like more people from other countries have this feeling of like, well, I can move anywhere. I can pack up, and go and be a new person. And I feel like we're very much stuck in our ways.
Yeah, probably so. I also think like
we've lost this
stuff's expensive now, and like I'm just saying, right?
Yeah.
Some people can't even move into a house they own, so they're stuck in their whatever rent they're locked into or whatever. Like that happens.
But Woody's dad, he didn't feel like he could just pack up and leave and become a new man somewhere else.
I don't think he wanted to.
Yeah.
But also, so pre World War II is pre like real people having insurance. Your employer provided insurance, which is what keeps people locked into where they are. Didn't exist until after World War II or during World War II when there were caps on how much you could pay a person, and so to get around that, they'd say, "Well, we'll pay your insurance or whatever," and that's where that really comes from as an institution for us. But I mean, there's a lot of changes during and after this time, and definitely were different. People sometimes wonder where like the cowboy spirit comes. Like where does the spirit come from? Where you can just like pick up and go.
Yeah.
And there might be something to this idea that there's like a genetic thing there because like Woody picked up and went, but Woody comes from I don't know, whoever. It was like a German dude or whatever who just decided I'm gonna hop on a boat and go to a continent I've never been before.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring my 7 kids and wife with me. I bet it'll be fine. Right? And so you have all these like hyper optimistic people who just believe that they're going to pull it off. All getting together, all making babies together. There's something to that, right? Like there's definitely something about that spirit that says that you could go and do that thing. And that America happened to be the place that gravitated all those people to it. So.
It does suck that Augusta Red didn't live longer than she lived. During World War II, that's when, all the women were working those factories. And, I mean, it was truly a time of, like, woman power, know, and everyone else was wearing pants, too. She really could have seen quite a change in the world. She didn't get to, but imagine how much change Woody saw, know,
for
throughout
sure.
his life.
Because this is written, like,
right,
a year or two from
in
now.
The future, yeah. I mean, and I think about that, like how much my grandfather has seen, my papa. Like, man, he's just seen just a crazy world, just from when he was a kid to now. Yeah. It's just wild.
Yeah. My grandmother's the one who recommended this book to us. Yeah. And, I mean, there's so much, that she's seen, and in the same way that we get from Woody at the end of the book talking about these things. And,
And she very much has, that very, like, independent and, whatever it is that I want to do can happen spirit. You know, she really is kind of a Woody or an Augusta Red in that capacity.
Sure.
Strong-willed and... There's a lot to learn. We read books to have these vicarious experiences, right? Like, that's even why catharsis is so important. We can see someone else's tragedy, feel those feels, and then feel great about it. We've purged we've cleansed our emotions, and now we're all happy to be alive. So we got to experience this West with Giraffes, we got to experience the whole journey.
Yeah.
And look at how much we learned from it. Yeah. I never thought about, and this sounds really dumb, but I've never thought about the United States without interstates. Yeah. I've just never thought about it. Right. I knew, like, I don't know, some states don't have as many as others, and like sometimes you gotta hop off on a side road but, and like traveling in a mountain, I've done that once, I was passenger, but like having to take this whole rig, I had to Google what a switchback was. Yeah. What is that?
I think also this book does well when you read it like in these like 3 basically like big chunks. Like if I had spread it out like too long, I wouldn't have felt it as impactfully. But over the course of 3 weeks, it's like bam, bam, bam. Yeah. And one of my favorite movies hits me emotionally in the same way as this, and every time the credits roll, I just have to sit there in silence and just think and just be.
The fountain.
Yeah, the fountain. I love the fountain.
It's really good.
It is good, and I'm defending against someone who is not here. All the people of the world.
Do people not like that movie?
People hate it.
Why?
We can talk about it later.
Okay.
Got some strong opinions. But I felt that way this way. I felt that way here also. Just I need some time to be alone and to think and to process like this loss that I feel.
Yes.
Of something that I never had.
I miss the giraffes. Yeah, I gotta go pet my dog now.
It was ultimately Augusta's heart condition that took her.
Yeah.
Right? And I love the way they describe Woody's death, right? Where his heart skipped a beat.
Oh, yeah.
And then it kept skipping beats. And he knew it was time,
yeah.
And even though they went out thousands of miles and, decades apart, they went out together, right? They went out the same way.
Yeah.
And it was a great description.
That's a good connection.
Thank you.
I didn't think about that.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I really feel like because I just finished the book, I just haven't had time to process it. I feel like next week I'm gonna have so much to say.
Well, we can leave all the comments. Check the comments for our post thoughts.
No, I mean sometimes that's just it. You just finished it and it was just good.
I think if you're somebody who read this book with us, you know, right?
Yeah.
I don't. And almost in a weird way, I feel like saying anything takes away from it.
Yeah.
Like this is what you experience from this book is something that is yours.
Yeah.
And it's not meant to. Like the whole idea is that Woody is supposed to share this story, but it's yours now, and you keep that.
Yeah, you hang on to it like the old man's hand story.
Yeah. Probably born with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it was just real good. That the circus still so scary to me, which
always was even before I read this book. Circuses are scary.
I was always fascinated by it as a kid. One of my favorite movies growing up was The Best Show on Earth or The Greatest Show on Earth, and it was about the circus, Barnum and Bailey type thing.
Yeah.
But just the entity of the circus, and even Woody, as the novel came towards its end, kind of kept looking back for it. When they got to Cootie, he thought it was going to be Cootie. Was that not what it's called?
His name was Cooter.
Sorry. For a second he was like, "Oh, it's going to be the circus man again."
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just someone who's willing to exploit animals, doesn't care about them.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I'll as my final thought, I'll say this again. We all feel these strong things about these people who are exploiting these animals, but why don't we feel that about people who are exploiting people? Mm-hmm. And that's in this book too. Yeah. And that was in this time, and not only is it in that time, but it is in this time
currently. Yeah.
And I think by now we all agree that you should not be a jerk to animals. We've made a lot of progress in the last 100 years. We really haven't made a lot of progress on don't be a jerk to people.
The people part, right?
Yeah. How bizarre.
Yeah. And we do see that kindness in Riley. He treated everyone equally.
Yeah.
If he didn't like you, he didn't like you.
Yep.
I
respect that.
But he was good to people. When it came down to it, he didn't call the cops on Red.
Yeah.
He did help her. He offered to pay for her way back. He was a good man. Yeah. Who may or may not have killed somebody.
Yeah, they seem to think it wasn't true.
Yeah, that guy answered real fast. Nope, never heard of that.
Yeah. So.
All right.
That's all I got to say.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Gosh, that was good.
It was good.
I'm going to have to recover.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in us taking a look at some of her other books, and I don't know about anything that Miss Rutledge has written.
I have already mentally added another book to the list.
But I am willing to give it a shot. I would like to read one page to make sure it's the same style because it's the style that I love.
Yeah.
And if it feels the same, I'm in. But this is I need a little while.
Yeah,
before
we
I
need to
take
recover.
this ride.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Anansi Boys is going to be sad.
I mean,
I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe not though. I feel like American Gods wasn't sad.
It was kind of tragic, but in its own way. Regardless, we appreciate you guys
Either
joining
way.
us this week. We appreciate you guys reading this book. Please suggest this book to people. You don't have to suggest our channel. I don't care.
No, just
Suggest
share
a book.
this book. It was so good.
I mean, I would have skipped it.
Yeah.
And how tragic.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing about the book club.
Yeah.
Is like we're just going for random stuff.
Yeah.
And so please keep recommending books to us as well, because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we're missing.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a huge world of literature out there, and we're reading as fast as we can.
Yeah. Well, we will see you next week for our first section of Anansi Boys.
Yeah. Check out the syllabus episode so you know how far to read, and we'll see you then.
See you next time.
Bye.